you guys, and welcome to Adulting with Joyce Pring, the how-tos of your 20s told by a 20-something-year-old traversing through adult life expectantly and with gusto. Don't forget to check out joycepring.com for the show notes and use the hashtag Adulting with Joyce Pring for all your comments, suggestions, and hopefully non-violent reactions. Welcome to another episode of Adulting with Joyce Spring. Hi, my name is Joyce, and we're back again with my favorite co-host.
Yeah!
Atayde is in the house, everybody.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to be back, despite the great leaps and bounds that your show has taken since we were taping it in your small room.
I know, in the condo.
It's so nice to be back.
Welcome back, Parts. And now that we're here at New Works, we're doing a little bit of a studio setup. I thought that we've been doing so many episodes of Adulting with Joyce Spring, but we haven't actually done like an interview episode featuring Aaron Atayde. It's always co-hosting with you.
Wow, yeah, wow. I don't have a lot of interviews of me anywhere anyway, so this is interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of like dive into who you are and what you've been doing in the past couple of years that you're working in broadcasting. Ooh. You were a radio jock for...
I was a radio DJ in Magic for about 12 years.
About 12 years. And you were doing the late night show for 10 years. Is that correct?
Yes, I was doing when I started out, I was doing the 12 midnight to 3 a.m.
Uh-huh.
I did that for, I think, about 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of changed the way that the time slots went. So I went from 10 p.m. to 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was Josh Strike then.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very, very confusing time in my life. I didn't know, because I was also doing my TV work at the same time.
Yeah.
So on TV, I was Aaron Atayde. When I got into the Magic 89 booth, 89.9 booth, I immediately became Josh Strike.
Were you doing sportscasting already at that time?
Yes.
Okay.
So the story with how I got into it all was I was a junior jock and I applied as well to be a courtside reporter for the UAP.
Mm-hmm.
And within about a month and a half of each, I became the courtside for Adamson University. I did not go to Adamson University, but I'm so thankful that the school was always so accommodating towards me. And I became a DJ for Magic. And for those that do know that I was Josh Strike, something that a lot of people know even more than that was for 2 weeks I was DJ Ron.
What? Why were you DJ Ron?
I don't know. I don't know why I was DJ Ron. I don't know why they...
Ang lakas maka-VJ Greg nung
diba?
DJ Ron.
Summer na.
That's so VJ Greg. Okay.
They said, okay, we'll name you Ron because no one knows how to spell Aaron. We were still using the text line at the time, and they were like, okay, if we use the text line, nobody's gonna know how to type out your name.
Yeah.
So we'll go with DJ Ron. And I was using it, and thank God for Mo Twister, who said, I don't care, because I think we were testing something on air or something like. He's like, okay, I don't care what they say. I am the boss here. You will not be DJ Ron. We will find something else. And this was all on air, this discussion.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, they were like, okay, we'll name you Josh Strike. And it was from there, it was that, and it was so weird.
To be completely honest, Josh Strike is not any better than DJ Ron, so I don't know how you, I don't know why you feel like you had some sort of upgrade.
No, I don't know, because Ron was like, Ron. Like, it was too short, so, and I didn't want to use DJ Ron or anything like that. So when they said, okay, you're Josh Strike now, I kind of enjoyed that.
Okay, but take us back to before radio, before Magic, before you started doing TV. What was it like growing up for you? Did you immediately think that you wanted to do sportscasting and hosting?
Yes. It was always my dream. It was always my dream to be a sportscaster. Even when I was living in the States before I moved here, I would have like cassette tapes of me pretending to commentate my brother playing basketball.
Wow!
And it would be like, okay, Tony goes for a shot, blah blah blah. I would pretend that I was doing it.
How old were you when you were doing this?
5-6 years old.
Incredible.
And it was funny because when we would pretend it would be halftime, I would introduce the music
No
during the
way.
halftime and pretend that I was a DJ.
No
Yes,
way.
that was literally how I grew up. I grew up
Ah.
wanting to do what I did for so long,
Mm-hmm.
and it was something that I kept driving into my head and driving into my head, and I said I wanted to be, I wanted to work for ESPN, and I wanted to be a DJ or whatever, and when we moved back here to the Philippines,
Yeah.
the first thing my brother told my mom and my dad at the time was, "Oh no, Aaron's never gonna be able to do those kinds of things," because we didn't know what was in the Philippines. Like his
Yeah.
dream is gonna come to an end. Oh no, and that's how much I cherished that dream of mine and wanting to make it into a reality. But luckily, because of all of that, and despite everything, it actually led to me being able to do what I do now
Yeah.
and live that dream because of the fact that we moved here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're working now as a sportscaster, as a TV host.
Yeah.
You also do live events. And then you just finished doing your stint with Magic 89.9. And now you have your own podcast,
Yes,
right?
I do.
So it's always just kind of like a constant evolution to that. Was there any sort of preparation that you had to do before you became a radio jock? Because this is a question that I'd often get on the podcast or even on my Instagram page. They always ask, how do I start to become a host? Because being a host or a TV presenter wasn't a thing before, right? Like what you were
Yes.
saying, when you come to the Philippines, you'd think that that dream of yours isn't going to come into full fruition anymore
Yes.
because that's not a thing that we do. But lo and behold, the digital age came, and now everyone wants to be an influencer or a
Yes.
host or a radio jock or a TV presenter. What was the preparation for you like?
Well, for me, the biggest thing I think that I did was I wanted to be able to speak very clearly. I needed to make sure that all of my diction, whether it was in English or in Tagalog, which now I'm still working on for obvious reasons, because it's very lackluster my Tagalog. But I always wanted to be able to talk very clearly because, I mean, if you are a host or whatever, people need to understand what you're saying, regardless of the language that you're using. But most of all, I think, like for radio, it was different from what it was on sports. But I guess I'll start with radio. The one thing that I kind of had to, I guess, get over was, because you know me, I'm a real introvert. People think that I'm extroverted, but I really am an introvert.
Yeah.
So when I had to really get out of my shell and really show my personality, the personality that not a lot of people get to see, and really put it out there, which is very difficult for an introvert to do.
Yeah.
I think that was like one of the biggest things.
Okay.
And be okay with the fact that I'm an extroverted introvert, because a lot of people are kind of hide their personality and they don't want to show that. But if you want to get into this line of work, you really have to.
Yeah. It's kind of a prerequisite.
It really
to it.
is.
Wait, so how do you balance, exploring and accepting your natural inclination towards being an introvert and then kind of stepping into this new phase of your life wherein I have to be an extrovert to thrive in the career that I've chosen?
When I was starting out, it was okay. We gotta go like full extrovert, like
Yeah, because that's all. But that, I think for some people, that's impossible to do.
exactly. And at the same time, it's not natural.
And it's so tiring.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why both of us are the same way in terms of our social battery kind of takes a hit every time that you have to put on that extrovertedness on, if that's a word. But when I was starting out, it was just like, okay, we gotta show that we are not introverted. We have to show that we have a big personality, and we have to show all of these different parts of who we are. When it got to later on in my career, that's when I realized, and I think that this is something the advice that I would give to people that are trying to get into this line of work. Yes, you have to be extroverted to some extent, but you have to stay true to who your personality really
Yeah.
is. I know that I am not as extroverted as a lot of people are, despite what people might think. I mean, I'm really not. But at the same time, I need to make sure that I stay true to who I am. My personality is, I like my alone time. I like, having conversations like this.
Yeah.
This is kind of where my wheelhouse is, where it's one-on-one conversation, and I enjoy interviews and stuff like that because I feel like that's where I connect more.
Yeah.
So I think you have to understand who your audience is. If your audience is 50,000 people and you're, a rock star and that's something that you're really good at, then that's it. But for me, it's, I enjoy, and I guess that it was perfect because that's how I started radio, where I was alone.
Yeah.
And I learned how to have conversations with myself, and I still do until now. And I think that that's really the way it is, that you balance out the way that the person and the personality that you have.
That's true. And I feel like that's also a facet of professionalism,
Yes.
right? Because there are a lot of people who are introverted and then they go into jobs that require for them to be extroverted, or at least to step out of their comfort zone and feel this discomfort of socializing with people and talking with clients, not even in TV,
Yeah.
right? And so it's part of your professionalism to actually put on that switch,
Yes.
and face people and kind of enjoy that discomfort of being in front of people, even if you're an introvert. And then, like what you said, sometimes the battery just goes out and then you have your alone time.
Yeah, and that's when you recharge.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. If there's anyone that's listening right now and it's like, oh, why is it, why am I like that? Why do I need my alone time? I want to be able to hang out with all my friends and all that. No, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it is tiring to be able to be putting out that extrovertedness and showing that side of your personality, because you're not used to it.
Yeah.
So if you need that alone time, take it, enjoy it, and then from there, and have your alone time after.
Yeah, I like what you said. It's really about balance. Parang you give yourself deposit of
Yes.
energy. So you have your alone time. You read your book. You listen to music. You love to do this. Aaron loves to
Always.
listen to music. Go for a workout. You have that alone time, and then after you'll just realize now I have energy to face people and
Yes.
interact with them. So yes, go ahead.
No, and that's how it goes with work. That's
Yeah.
how we do our work. Where we are always out. We're always out in front of people, and people think sometimes that I guess I'm like snobby or something like that. No, it's really just I don't. It's not in my works to just be like, "Hi everyone, how are you doing?" That's just not like how I am,
Yeah.
despite my work. And I think that. I guess it might rub some people the wrong way
Yeah.
sometimes, but at the same time, that's just who I am, and I had to accept that.
And I love that because sometimes you may give people discomfort, or they might not like that part of who you are. But if that's really who you are and you're honest about it, as long as you're not deliberately hurting people,
Yes.
I think that's totally fine, right?
Yes.
It's the same way that sometimes when I see someone in the mall, malayo, and then they're far away from me, but I know who they are, I am gonna deliberately try to avoid eye contact.
Yes.
Because I don't have energy for chit chat or small talk
Yes.
while I'm having my alone time of doing groceries and shopping and all of
Yes.
these things,
And
right?
For me, it's just more of like I don't know if I don't know if this person remembers who I am. I don't know if this person knows me or anything like that.
Parts, you have the face that people can't forget.
But at the same time, it's like I don't want to feel like I know who people are. It's just
Yeah.
like, hi. I'm really awkward. I really am awkward. I'm an awkward turtle.
Yeah, kind of an awkward turtle, but
Yeah.
then you're thriving in an industry that doesn't
Yes.
necessarily,
I don't know. I guess it's kind of like I turn on a switch when I get to work, and I love my work. It's not like if I have to turn on my switch, it's difficult for me or it's a task.
Yeah.
But I love my work. I love what I do. I love that this is the way that I am. And so far so good.
And that's really a good point. When you put self-acceptance, knowing what your weaknesses and your strengths are, with passion, wherein you're willing to sacrifice things for the things that you love, then that really goes into a good combination of things,
Yes.
which is what you're saying. I'm introverted, but I try to be extroverted for something that I'm so passionate
Yes.
and I love. So tell us about that. You did radio for 12 years, and then now you're doing sportscasting,
Yes.
TV hosting. What's that life like?
I guess it's interesting, so to say. I mean, when it comes to broadcasting and all of that, it's a world that is very different from anything else out there. And I mean, I've had my own company before. I worked at that. I've done events and all of that. But when it comes to broadcasting, it's very, very different for reasons that I really have no idea why. I mean, the industry is a certain way. I can't really explain it. You have to be in it to really understand, especially with the way that the landscape of TV and content is right now. But I love the fact that to be completely honest, the reason why I got into sports broadcasting was because I wasn't good enough to play the sport.
But you tried? Did you try to play basketball?
I mean, I've tried for so long, and I knew that I was going to be watching it no matter what. So my rationale growing up was, if I'm not going to be able to play and I'm going to be watching it, somebody needs to pay me to watch this. I need to make money from doing this. And that was it. And I was like, okay, I love music
So
for so
smart.
much. I love music, and I listen to music nonstop. It's the soundtrack of my life. I need somebody to pay me to listen to music.
And that's what I always tell people. It's okay to be fascinated and in love with Dota as long as you're the guy that makes the game better.
Exactly.
Right?
If you're making money from it, then what up?
That's the goal. It's always finding something that you love
Yes.
and then finding out ways how to make money off of it.
Yes. So the industry when it comes to sports is kind of like the industry when it comes to being a radio DJ. And I think that that's why I have the same kind of sentiment towards both of them. You have to do it because you love it. I didn't get into either of them because I wanted to be famous. I didn't do it because I wanted to have notoriety or anything like that. It was mainly because I love sports.
Yeah.
I love telling stories, and I love the stories that come along with sports, and I think that's really where I draw my inspiration, and that's what it's like for me to work.
Yeah.
Whether it was working on SportsCenter when it was when I was still on the desk, it was always telling a story of what it wasn't. Okay, blah 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 team won, blah blah blah. Like for instance, the Lakers lost to Miami because I know that's Miami's the number one team on the show. I had to
In
tell
my
the
heart.
Yeah, I had to tell the story of how it happened, why it happened. That's what I fell in love with.
Yeah.
And until this day, I always consider myself as a sports storyteller or a storyteller period more than anything else.
That's really good. And I have to say also that Aaron is one of the best, if not the best interviewer that I know. He is just the type of person that does his research, but then he puts it into the conversation in such a way that it really just sounds like you're telling a story.
Thank
You're
you.
asking your interviewee to tell a story. So tell us, what are some of the most interesting, or who are some of the most interesting people you've ever interviewed? You've done from musicians to celebrities to athletes. You've done the whole bout.
Oh man.
Tell us your favorite stories from your interviews.
Well, of course, the first one that will come to mind is when I interviewed Kobe. That's like obviously, one of the I interviewed him twice.
What was that like, meeting Kobe Bryant?
Oh man. Well, it was amazing because he was so easy to interview. He was so well media trained, and the best part, I think, that when we had our conversations, both time. Well, I mean, I don't want to say I know him or anything like that very well. We had about 3 or 4 conversations, and the best part about interviewing him was that it felt like it was not an interview. And when I first interviewed him, I was just starting. I think I was maybe about 3 or 4 years in maybe 4 or 5 years into the whole business. And when I talked to him, and he made it feel like we were having a conversation and everyone else was just listening.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, okay, I need to make all of my interviews this way.
That's where you got it.
Because it didn't feel like I was asking him questions so that he would answer for everyone. It was me and him having a conversation, like something like this, and everyone else was just sitting there enjoying the conversation.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, okay, from here on out, this is the way that it needs to go. And I
Yeah.
think he knew that I was young. He knew that I wasn't as experienced as I was hosting that event with Gino Rufino. And Gino was,
Old. We
Gino
love you, Gino.
Yeah, Gino had some years on me and years of experience. And he knew, and I think Kobe understood that. So he was kind of ringing me along, like, okay, this is how it's done. This is, and from there, that's how I was able to, really grow in terms of being an interviewer.
Was there any part of that conversation or that interview that has stuck with you throughout all these years?
If there was one bit of a conversation with Kobe that I had that was until now sticks out in my head it wasn't anything that was on stage. It wasn't anything that was with a microphone or anything like that. It was right after the final tour that he had here, and that day I had a couple days before that I had laryngitis. I had zero voice whatsoever. I was walking around with a whiteboard and I was writing down things that I would want to say to people because I needed to save my voice for the event. And I interviewed him lunchtime for the media, and then at night it was the actual event.
Which you hosted.
Yeah, which I hosted alone. And there was nobody else on the floor, but it was just me and him. And I powered through it. And I powered through, got my voice, I threw every single part of my voice out. At the end of that event, there was nothing left, absolutely nothing left. And he came up to me afterwards. I wanted to see him one last time before he left. He came up to me and he said, "Yo, you Mamba mentality that like crazy."
Wow.
It's like, whatever it was that pulled you through that, keep that going until forever, bro. And I was like, okay, that was all worth it. Everything until this day, I remember it. Luckily enough, one of my friends was right beside me, Banj Albano, who said right behind me, he's like, "Dude, if anyone had questions if that story ever happened, I was right here." He said he took a picture and everything, and that has stuck with me until this day.
And I remember you told me about that conversation right after. I think we were partners already when you hosted for that.
We were.
And so when I asked you about it, that was the story that you told me. And from that moment, I knew that it was something that was really important to you, because it's important the way that people are, especially legends are, living legends are, off camera, right? And that's really some of the most interesting and most iconic moments that you'll share with them.
Obviously. And I mean, there have been incredible interviews that I've had with a lot of different people. They were all fun. And I can't honestly say that there's an interview that was out of nowhere that was so good, because I always try to make sure that all my interviews are very much connected. They're I feel like we're really friends talking. One interview though that really sticks out in my head. Oh my God, this is insane.
Don't say Dua Lipa.
No. Sadly, it's not her.
Wait,
I did interview her.
Yes, can I just say though that Aaron Atayde used to be, I don't know if you're still obsessed with Dua Lipa, and you ended up interviewing her,
I did.
which is crazy.
Yeah, I did interview her.
Okay, but that's not the interview that you were thinking about.
No.
What was it?
Okay, so, oh man, I think that this was one of my first real international. I think that this was my first real international interview. It was a phone call that I remember. CJ the DJ was the one that told me, it's like, okay, you're gonna interview the bassist for Simple Plan.
Okay.
I was like, dude, I don't know how to interview. I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, they're gonna call in your show.
Okay.
And then from there, you have 5 minutes with him, because that's how it is. For those that don't know, if there's a phone patch interview with an international artist, they call in. There's just a scheduled time, and then from there you have your 5 minutes. They hang up the phone. They call the next radio station. It's like doing the tours.
Yeah.
So he was like, okay, your time is at 8:30. I was doing the 6 to 9 o'clock in the morning show in Magic on the weekends.
Okay.
And he's like, he's gonna call in at 8:30. The studio was still in Eastwood at the time. So I was like, okay, like whatever. It's in the morning. Not that many people are gonna be listening anyway on a Saturday. If I mess it up, then I mess it up. Who
Yeah.
cares? So he calls in. I was like, hello. Like before we go on air, I was like, hello. He's like, hey man, are you ready for the interview? And he's like, hello, hello, hello. And I was like, oh goodness. I was like, he's like, dude, we got like 5 minutes. So if you want to go, I'll just talk on air. And I was like, huh? Hello, hello, hello. He could not hear me.
Wow.
So I had to pretend
No.
that I was interviewing him with him just talking. And I was like, okay, we got on now. Because the thing is, whenever I would put it on air, he couldn't hear me. If I took it out, he could hear me. So if it was on the phone. So I was like, okay, dude, I'm just going to ask like one question and then I'm going to put it on the air and then just like
Go.
talk about your album and whatever. He's like, okay, dude, whatever. So yeah, I asked the question both like into the mic and on the headset. I put the phone on, and then I was just pretending like, hey,
Oh my gosh, no.
Yes, swear to God. Until this day, that interview haunts me. So when we would do interviews when we were doing our show together, that's why I was always so like I had this my anxiety was going crazy that everything had to be working before.
Yeah, you
we
prep
wanna go.
everything.
Yes,
Okay.
that's why I'm so prepared with how I do my interviews. I'm telling you, all of this it just pulls into a perfect storm of how this goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
that's how it is.
No, but I mean, I think that also shows professionalism on both you and the bassist, right?
Yes.
Because he just goes, yeah, sure, okay, I'll save your butt.
Yeah.
And I'll go on and start talking
Exactly.
about my
He could
album.
have easily been like, you know what, screw this, I can't do it, I'm done.
Exactly. So that's what I was thinking. Like, I'm wondering, is there a constant characteristic or trait that you see from all of the successful people that you interview? Because I feel like there is,
Yes.
right? That certain level of grittiness, that certain level of what is it?
Okay, if there was one thing that I think that all successful people, regardless of the field or the people that I've interviewed and my friends that I look up to, like you, when it comes to being successful, is adaptability. If you cannot adapt, if you don't evolve, you will be extinct. That is the way of the world.
Yeah.
And that is the way, that has been the way since the start of time. I mean, if you cannot evolve with who you are or adapt to situations and keep your cool, then that will be your downfall.
I completely agree. That's amazing. Whenever I meet anybody who's successful, or no matter how good they are at their work, they're so adaptable. In that, my dad used to say this: when they talk to a guard or to the helper, it's the same way that they talk to an executive.
Yes.
They adapt to these people. No successful or incredible human being have I ever met that just goes, I'm better than you.
No.
Don't talk to me that way. Lagi silang adaptable, right?
Yes. Whether it is in a situation, like for instance, I mean, it's happened so many times. Like we're hosting an event and the mic goes out or something, or they say stretch or all of these different things. You have to be able to adapt. Whether you are, when it comes to like being, I don't know, a stockbroker. If things are changing, you have to be able to adapt. And
Yeah.
you need to see that. And that's where I think the people that I have interviewed, that has always been one of my like go-to questions. It's like when things go wrong, how do you stay on track and make sure that you are able to get things going in the right direction? And that's something that I hold near and dear to a lot of my friends. And when my friends ask me as well, like, what do I need to do to be able to get better? That's the same thing I say. You got to be able to adapt.
Yeah. So you have adapted on so many different levels in the past few years, right?
Thank you.
You've adapted from studying about communications
Yes.
into actually doing communications, from watching basketball for free to actually getting paid for it.
That was it right there.
That's the key to happiness. And now you're going into your podcasting.
Yes.
Tell us more about that.
Well, the thing with my podcasting and
Which is called
Jump Through Hoops, by
Yes.
the way. If you guys are looking for a nice basketball podcast. Please do check it out. I never thought of doing the podcast again because I wanted to like make money or get famous or anything like that. It was really, the conversation was I wanted to have a conversation with other people, just one-on-one, talking about basketball, because I think that there's a lot of I guess frustration, and you want to be able to get it out there. You want to be able to have that conversation with people. Just the same way that people have conversations in their, text groups and all that talking about basketball. I just wanted to record it. I just wanted to have more and more people on the show just talking about basketball.
And you guessed Gino Rufino. You guessed fellow sportscasters. You also guessed basketball players.
Yes.
You guessed coaches.
I've guested a commission, the PBA commissioner on my show.
Incredible.
I've guested like athletes and fellow sports broadcasters, because at the end of the day, the way that I wanted to build it was, I just wanted to talk about everything that I'm talking about anyway, but I wanted it to be as unfiltered as possible.
You go into podcasting because you wanted to have conversations, right? But most of the time, I feel like people get scared kasi to do new things because they're so comfortable in doing the old things.
Yes.
So you've been hosting for 12 years,
yes,
probably more than that, on so many other platforms. And these are platforms that have always been there. Radio, TV, live events, right? But then podcasting is actually pretty new, at least here in the Philippines. How do you tune your mind into trying something new when you're so comfortable with what you have?
I think that okay. I don't know if this is on the nose or anything, but for me, I always think that trying something new is all about ego.
Tell us more about that. So are you saying you're egoistic?
No, I think that if you want to try something new, you have to put aside your ego.
It's the other way around.
It's the other way around. Because when you do something new, you're going to suck at it.
That's true.
I can honestly say that I am not like really, really good at podcasting. I'm not going to say that my show is like the best. I'm not even going to say my show is good.
It's pretty good.
All I'm saying is that I do not mind sucking at something. If you want to try something new, don't be afraid to suck at something new, because that's when you know you're going to be good at something later on. Whatever you're comfortable at right now, perfect example is you were never, when you started out, you weren't good at walking.
Yeah.
I mean, we weren't good at walking when we started out, but look at us now.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to try something new. Whether it is podcasting, whether it's putting up a YouTube channel, whether it's, taking nice pictures or something like that and putting it on Instagram. Don't be afraid to try something new.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at how I started getting into podcasting. Because my understanding was, even if it sucks, so what?
Yeah.
What am I going to lose?
And I feel like that's also one of the reasons why you're still relevant, because you're never afraid of sucking at something and of failure. And if you want to be successful, or if you want to continuously, as you said, innovate and, succeed in what you're doing, you have to evolve. You have to adapt. You have to be able to accept within yourself that it's okay if I fail at this, because at least I will have tried it.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, I would rather fail and say that at least I at least tried it than fail to try it.
So if you were able to go back in time and talk to the person that you were 12 years ago, 13, 15 years ago, what would be the one advice that you'd give Aaron?
Get some sleep. Get some sleep, dude. Because you're not going to have a lot as it goes along. You're not going to have all of these hours of sleep. And at the same time, just keep pushing, man. I mean, at the start of it all, I mean, when I was getting into this, I was new at this.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I sucked at this. I sucked at hosting. I sucked at, sports broadcasting. I sucked at radio. I sucked at writing when I was a writer at the time. But as time went along, I mean, meeting people and learning from my idols and, having my idols learn from me. whatever it is that I got into, if I was telling my 14, 15-year younger version of myself, it would just be, dude, it's gonna be one hell of a ride. Hang on, get some sleep, and keep going.
That's pretty good advice. And I think that's a perfect time to really wrap up this episode with Aaron Atayde. Thank you, Parts.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun. I don't remember being interviewed on another show. This is dope.
Because you're the host and you're always the one doing the
Exactly.
interviews. But it's great. I've learned so much from you in the past few years. And it's really nice to put together an episode where people can actually learn from you as well, from
Thank
your
you.
experiences.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and of course, Aaron will always be on the show. So if you like this episode, please do let us know. Give it a thumbs up and give comments in the comment section below. If you are listening to the audio version of this, well, we are talking about the video version that you can find at Make the Right Choice. But in the meantime, Aaron, why don't you invite them to follow you?
Yes, please check out my social media accounts at there you go on this one at Aaron Atayde on Twitter, Instagram. Please check out Jump Through Hoops on all your favorite podcast the sites, whatever it may be. And of course, continue to support Adulting with Joyce. It's one of my favorite podcasts in the country, in the world. So always make sure that you follow them.
That's pretty much it, you guys. We'll talk to you again soon. Paalam.
Peace.
Don't forget to check out joyspring.com for the show notes and use the hashtag #AdultingWithJoycePring for all your comments, suggestions, and hopefully non-violent reactions. Thanks for listening.